We are about to watch the most humiliating public destructions in history. From fake billionaires and pretend doctors to celebrities caught red-handed by the internet police. These aren't just little white lies. These are career-ending disasters that happened while the whole world was watching. 101 liars, zero shame, and the exact moment they got busted. 1. We have to start with the king of resumes himself, George Santos. This guy lied about everything from being a star volleyball player to working at Goldman Sachs. He even claimed his mother died twice. It got so bad that even his own party was looking at him like he was an alien from a planet where truth does not exist. 2. Elizabeth Holmes scammed investors out of millions with a blood test that was pure fantasy, but the real scam was that voice. She walked around talking like a baritone saxophone to sound authoritative. When she slipped up and used her real high-pitched voice during interviews, the entire internet collectively lost its mind. 3. Rachel Dolezal became the president of an NAACP chapter and taught Africana studies, which is great until her very Caucasian parents went on television with childhood photos. She was a blonde, blue-eyed girl from Montana who decided she identified as black, sparking one of the most awkward national conversations in history. 4. Olympian Ryan Lochte claimed he was robbed at gunpoint in Rio, painting a terrifying picture of survival. The security footage told a different story. He and his buddies actually vandalized a gas station bathroom, and the security guard just wanted them to pay for the damage. He literally invented a robbery to cover up being a drunk frat boy. 5. Milli Vanilli won a Grammy and dominated the charts, but their live performance in Connecticut ruined everything. The backing track for Girl You Know It Is True began to skip, repeating the same line over and over. They panicked and ran off stage, proving they had never actually sung a single note on their album. 6. Alec Baldwin's wife, Hilaria, spent years using a thick Spanish accent and implying she was born in Mallorca. Then a viral thread exposed that she is actually Hillary from Boston. The moment she went on a cooking show and forgot the English word for cucumber was the final nail in the coffin for her spicy persona. 7. Jussie Smollett claimed 2 men attacked him in Chicago at 2 in the morning yelling MAGA slogans. Police were suspicious immediately because he was still holding his Subway sandwich intact after the alleged brawl. It turned out he paid 2 brothers to stage the beatdown just to get a raise on his TV show. 8. Wellness influencer. Belle Gibson built an empire claiming she cured her terminal brain cancer through whole foods and clean living. She launched a successful app and a cookbook before journalists discovered a tiny problem. She never had cancer. She scammed actual sick people into ditching medicine for smoothies just to get famous. 9. Brian Williams was the face of NBC Nightly News until he told a gripping story about being in a helicopter forced down by RPG fire in Iraq. Soldiers who were actually there immediately called him out on Facebook, saying his chopper was nowhere near the fire. He lost his primetime chair for trying to look like an action hero. 10. Anna Sorokin, better known as Anna Delvey, convinced New York's elite she was a German heiress with a $60 million trust fund. She lived in luxury hotels and scammed banks while wearing designer clothes. It all fell apart when her credit cards started declining and friends realized the wire transfer was never coming. 11. There is a special place in the Hall of Shame for stolen valor. One guy showed up to a high-profile event wearing a general's uniform with a chest full of medals. Real Marines spotted him instantly because his ribbons were completely out of order and he was wearing a combat infantry badge, which Marines do not even issue. He crumbled the second they asked for his military ID, exposing his total lack of service. 12. Lance Armstrong destroyed careers and sued people for years to protect his image as the clean cycling hero. It took a federal investigation to finally break him. Watching him admit to Oprah that his entire 7-title streak was fueled by a sophisticated doping ring was like watching a Greek tragedy where the hero admits he was the villain the whole time. 13. Rosie Ruiz won the Boston Marathon in record time, barely breaking a sweat. Her hair was perfect, and she was not even out of breath. Race officials were baffled until witnesses revealed she had jumped out of a crowd near the finish line after riding the subway for most of the race. She literally commuted to first place. 14. Linebacker. Manti Te'o had the nation in tears over the tragic death of his girlfriend Lenny Kekwa. He played inspired football in her honor. The only problem was that Lenny never existed. She was a voice on the phone created by a catfish, and the media storm that followed turned a college football hero into a national punchline. 15. Author James Frey sold millions of copies of A Million Little Pieces, a gritty memoir about his time in rehab and trouble with the law. It was a raw look at addiction until the smoking gun proved he made almost all of it up. Oprah had to drag him back on her show just to publicly shame him for duping her book club. 16. Trevor Milton became a billionaire by promising a hydrogen-powered semi-truck that would revolutionize transport. He released a video of the truck cruising down a highway to prove it worked. It turned out the truck had no engine and they had just towed it to the top of a hill and rolled it down. He literally used gravity to commit securities fraud. 17. Rick Ross built a massive rap career on his image as a ruthless Miami drug kingpin who knew the cocaine trade inside out. The street cred evaporated instantly when photos surfaced of him in his previous job. He was not a drug lord, he was a correctional officer. The biggest boss was actually on the payroll keeping prisoners in check. 18. The Spanish Paralympic basketball team won gold in Sydney and were hailed as heroes for overcoming intellectual disabilities. Then one of the players revealed the scam. Only 2 of the 12 players actually had a disability. The rest were just regular guys told to play badly enough to look convincing, but well enough to win gold. 19. Malachi Love Robinson was caught wandering the halls of a Florida hospital wearing a stethoscope and a lab coat, confidently examining patients. He was not a doctor. He was an 18-year-old kid. He later opened his own clinic and misled vulnerable audiences into paying him for medical services before authorities finally shut down his real-life Doogie Howser fantasy. 20. Janet Cook won a Pulitzer Prize for a devastating Washington Post story about an addicted child named Jimmy living on the streets. The city launched a massive effort to find and save him. Police could not locate the boy because Jimmy never existed. Cook had fabricated the entire story to advance her career and was forced to return the Pulitzer in public disgrace. 21. Frank Abagnale is famous for the movie Catch Me If You Can, based on his life as a master con man and pilot. Ironically, recent investigations suggest he lied about the lies. Records show he was sitting in prison during the years he claimed to be flying planes and performing surgeries. The greatest con was convincing us he was a great con man. 22. Rapper Bo. Wow posted a photo of a private jet with a caption implying he was flying in luxury to build an image and following. Internet detectives immediately spotted the stock photo. Someone at the airport then snapped a picture of him on a regular commercial flight, sitting in economy while scrolling on his phone. He tried to flex and got grounded by reality. 23. Frederick Bourdin, known as the Chameleon, managed to convince a grieving Texas family that he was their missing son, who had disappeared years earlier. Despite having a different eye color and a thick French accent, he lived with them for months until a private investigator proved he was actually a 23-year-old fugitive just looking for a place to stay. 24. Tamsanka Janchie stood next to world leaders like Barack Obama at Nelson Mandela's memorial service, interpreting their speeches for the deaf community. Deaf viewers were horrified to realize his hand movements were total gibberish. He was literally hallucinating and inventing signs that meant absolutely nothing while the whole world watched in confusion. 25. Stephen Glass was the star writer for The New Republic, churning out incredible scoops about hackers and political scandals. It turned out they were incredible because they were fiction. He invented sources, quotes, and entire events. He even created fake websites and voicemails to fool his fact-checkers until a competitor noticed his stories were impossible. 26. The Balloon Boy saga held the entire nation hostage as we watched a silver saucer float across Colorado, believing a 6-year-old was trapped inside. It was the perfect media storm until the boy, Falcon, appeared on the Today Show and told his dad, "You said we did it for the show." Richard Heen's face dropped as he realized his son just accidentally nuked his master plan on live television. 27. Vanilla Ice sold millions of records posing as a rough kid from the mean streets of Miami who survived gang wars. The street cred cracked when journalists dug into his past. He was actually Robert Van Winkle from a comfortable middle-class Texas suburb, a clean-cut choir kid who drove a Camaro and wore pastel polo shirts while rapping about street survival. 28. Celebrity chef. Robert Irvine lost his TV contract for padding his resume with lies that were frankly unnecessary. He claimed he cooked for 4 U.S. presidents and personally baked Princess Diana's wedding cake. The palace eventually confirmed that he did not bake the cake. He just picked fruit for it, which is slightly less impressive than designing a royal masterpiece. 29. Larry the Cable Guy is the voice of blue-collar America, complete with a thick Southern accent and sleeveless flannel. But that is just a character played by Dan Whitney. Dan is a clean-cut rich kid from a private school in Nebraska who speaks without any accent at all when the cameras stop rolling. 30. In the 90s, Fox aired Alien Autopsy, a documentary claiming to show the medical examination of an extraterrestrial from Roswell. It was a global sensation until the creator admitted the alien was a rubber dummy filled with sheep brains and jelly bought from a local butcher shop. 31. Jasmine Tridevil went viral, claiming she spent 20 grand on surgery to add a third breast to her chest to build an image and following. She did interviews and photo shoots until she reported her luggage stolen at an airport. The police report listed the contents of her bag, which included a 3-breast prosthesis, exposing her entire anatomical anomaly as a strap-on accessory. 32. Billy McFarland sold tickets to Fyre Festival, promising a luxury music experience on a private island with supermodels and yachts. Influencers arrived to find disaster relief tents and cold cheese sandwiches in styrofoam boxes. The internet laughed collectively as rich kids fought over mattresses in a scene that looked like Lord of the Flies for Instagram models. 33. Lonely Girl 15 was the very first YouTube superstar, a relatable teenager named Bree, filming her life in her bedroom. Fans were obsessed with her cult storyline until sleuths tracked her IP address to the creative artist agency. Bree was actually Jessica, a paid actress, and the whole channel was a scripted Hollywood experiment. 34. Author Clifford Irving claimed he had exclusive rights to write the autobiography of the reclusive billionaire Howard Hughes. He even forged letters from Hughes to prove it. The scheme collapsed when the real Howard Hughes, who had not spoken publicly in years, held a telephone conference just to say he had never met Irving in his life. 35. A New Jersey couple raised $400,000 on GoFundMe to help a homeless veteran who supposedly gave them his last $20 for gas. It was a heartwarming holiday miracle until texts surfaced where the woman told her friend the gas part is completely made up. They spent the money on Louis Vuitton bags and trips to Vegas before going to prison. 36. Shinichi Fujimura was known as God's Hand in Japan for his uncanny ability to find ancient artifacts that rewrote history. He was a national hero until a newspaper crew set up a hidden camera at a dig site. The footage showed him arriving early in the morning to bury the artifacts himself so he could discover them later when the crowd arrived. 37. Clark Rockefeller spent decades infiltrating high society, claiming to be a member of the famous oil dynasty. He charmed his way into exclusive clubs and a high-profile marriage. His wife eventually grew suspicious of his vague past, and fingerprints later revealed he was actually Christian Gerhardsreiter, a German immigrant wanted for questioning in a homicide. 38. David Hampton conned wealthy Manhattan elites by claiming to be the son of legendary actor Sidney Poitier. He was given money, dinners, and places to stay by people desperate to be close to fame. He was eventually exposed when one of his hosts actually called Sidney Poitier, who confirmed he did not have a son named David. 39. Paul Horner was a fake news writer who convinced the internet that street artist Banksy had been arrested and unmasked. Millions shared the story and celebrated the capture. The photo of the artist was actually just a random police mugshot of a man arrested for vandalism in the UK, but the lie traveled halfway around the world before anyone checked the source. 40. A woman in California claimed she had the winning Powerball ticket worth over $1 billion but had sadly lost it. She went to the media crying about her misfortune to gain sympathy. Security footage from the store later showed the actual winner was a completely different person, and she had never even purchased a ticket that day. 41. Simon Leviev, known as the Tinder swindler, lived a life of private jets and luxury hotels by convincing women he was the billionaire Prince of Diamonds. He would panic them with photos of his bodyguard bleeding, claiming his enemies were after him. The women took out massive loans to save him, funding his dates with the next victim. 42. Sherry Papini vanished while jogging, sparking a massive search. She reappeared weeks later, branded and battered, claiming 2 Hispanic women abducted her. The DNA on her clothes belonged to an ex-boyfriend. She had been hiding at his house the whole time and inflicted her own injuries to create a victim narrative that collapsed under scrutiny. 43. Walter Keane became an art world sensation in the 60s for his paintings of children with enormous sad eyes. He sold millions and basked in the fame. The charade ended when his wife Margaret sued him and challenged him to a paint-off in court. Walter claimed his shoulder hurt, while Margaret painted a masterpiece in an hour, proving she was the true artist. 44. Uba Butler turned his garden shed into the #1 rated restaurant in London on TripAdvisor. He posted photos of fake food made from shaving cream and bleach tablets. People called for months trying to book a table at the Shed at Dulwich. He finally opened for one night, serving frozen dinners to foodies who claimed it was the best meal of their lives. 45. Victor Lustig is the man who sold the Eiffel Tower not once, but twice. He posed as a French government official and convinced a scrap metal dealer that the city could no longer afford to maintain the tower and wanted to sell it for parts. The dealer was too embarrassed to go to the police when he realized the tower was still standing. 46. Elizabeth Finch was a star writer for Grey's Anatomy, who wrote storylines about a doctor with bone cancer. It was widely known she based it on her own battle with the disease. Disney launched an investigation and found she never had cancer. She had been mining her fake trauma to get sympathy and screen time in the writer's room. 47. Gosiame Sithole made headlines globally for giving birth to 10 babies at once, breaking a world record. Donations poured in for the Tembisa 10. Government officials and doctors were confused because no hospital had any record of the delivery. It turned out she was never even pregnant, and the babies were as real as a unicorn. 48. Charles Dawson discovered the missing link between apes and humans, known as the Piltdown Man. It was the pride of British science for 40 years. Then modern testing revealed the skull was just a medieval human bone, and the jaw belonged to an orangutan. He had literally filed the teeth down and stained them with chemicals to fool the entire scientific community. 49. Mary Toft managed to convince top doctors in the 18th century that she was giving birth to rabbits. Physicians watched in horror as animal parts emerged. The medical mystery was solved when a porter was caught sneaking a dead rabbit into her room. She had been manually inserting them to gain fame as a medical marvel. 50. Anthony Gignac spent decades posing as a Saudi prince, swindling investors out of $8 million. He drove Ferraris with diplomatic plates and demanded royal protocol. His entire scheme unraveled at a business lunch when he happily ordered prosciutto. The investors knew a strict Muslim prince would never eat pork, so they called the feds. 51. Gregor McGregor pulled off the most audacious real estate scam in history by selling land in the country of Poyai. Scots sold everything they owned to sail there and start a new life. When they arrived in Central America, they found only a malaria-infested swamp. McGregor had invented an entire nation, complete with its own currency and flag. 52. Author J.T. Leroy was the toast of the literary world, a teenage ex-prostitute writing raw, gritty novels. Celebrities flocked to meet him. J.T. was actually a woman named Laura Albert, wearing a wig and sunglasses. She even had her sister-in-law play the public persona while she stood in the background, laughing at how easily the critics were fooled. 53. Konrad Kujau claimed to have found the secret diaries of Adolf Hitler. A major German magazine paid millions to publish them, convinced they were authentic. Experts later looked closer and realized the aged paper was stained with tea, and the initials on the cover were actually FH, not AH. He had forged the entire history of the Third Reich in his basement. 54. Sarma Melngalis was the queen of the New York vegan food scene until she drained her restaurant's funds and went on the run. She claimed she transferred the money to a man who promised to make her pit bull immortal. She was finally caught in a cheap motel in Tennessee because she ordered a decidedly non-vegan Domino's pizza. 55. Ferdinand de Mara, known as the Great Imposter, faked his way into being a monk, a prison warden, and a ship's surgeon. During the Korean War, he successfully performed major surgeries on soldiers despite having no medical training. He just read a textbook quickly before cutting them open. The Navy only found out when his mother boasted about him in a local newspaper. 56. Carlos Kaiser is the greatest footballer to never kick a ball. He spent decades signing contracts with top Brazilian teams by faking hamstring injuries the moment he arrived. He charmed owners and paid youth players to beat him up, so he looked like a tragic hero, retiring without ever playing a single professional minute. 57. Ashlee Simpson appeared on Saturday Night Live ready to rock, but her band started playing the wrong song while her vocals for a different track rang out. She had not even moved the microphone to her mouth yet. She did an awkward little jig and blamed her band, but the lip-sync disaster effectively ended her pop career live on air. 58. Billy Mitchell held the world record for Donkey Kong and was hailed as the King of Kong. He was a gaming deity until pixel detectives analyzed his gameplay footage. They discovered the screen refreshed differently than a real arcade cabinet, proving he cheated using an emulator to splice together a perfect run. 59. Frank Dux claims the movie Bloodsport is based on his life, and that he won a secret martial arts tournament called the Kumite. Investigations revealed the trophy he showed off was bought at a local trophy shop in California. The Kumite never existed, and his only real fight record was falling off his own front porch. 60. Robert Durst spent years denying he murdered his friend and wife. He even agreed to be in a documentary to clear his name. In the final episode, he went to the bathroom still wearing his microphone and muttered, "What the hell did I do? Killed them all, of course," accidentally confessing to the entire world. 61. Jason Blair was a rising star at the New York Times, reporting from crime scenes across the country. Or so they thought. He was actually sitting in his Brooklyn apartment in his underwear, copying stories from other local papers and inventing quotes. He almost took down the most prestigious paper in America with his imagination. 62. Ali Dia convinced the manager of Southampton that he was the cousin of soccer legend George Weah. He got a contract and was subbed into a Premier League game. He played so badly, running away from the ball, that he was subbed off after 50 minutes. He vanished the next morning, leaving the hotel bill unpaid. 63. Steven Seagal spent decades claiming to be a martial arts master immune to chokeholds. He reportedly challenged judo legend Gene LeBell on a movie set to prove it. LeBell accepted, and within seconds, Seagal was unconscious, instantly losing the tough guy mystique he had spent years carefully constructing. 64. Danny Almonte was the pitcher who threw a perfect game in the Little League World Series, becoming a national sensation. He was throwing 70-mile-per-hour fastballs that kids couldn't touch. The magic ended when reporters found his birth certificate in the Dominican Republic, proving he was actually 2 years too old to even be in the league. 65. Mike Warnke became a millionaire comedian by telling terrifying stories about his former life as a high-ranking satanic priest with long hair and long fingernails. Christian magazines exposed that during the years he claimed to be drinking blood in covens, he was actually just a nerdy college student playing Dungeons & Dragons. 66. James Hogue applied to Princeton claiming to be a self-taught orphan raised in the mountains of Utah. He was accepted and ran on the track team. A classmate recognized him not as an orphan, but as a 31-year-old fugitive named James who had pulled the exact same scam at a high school in California years earlier. 67. Rapper Tyga loves to rap about his immense wealth and fleet of luxury cars. The facade cracked publicly when he was out shopping for sneakers and a repo man showed up with a spare key. The repo man drove Tyga's Ferrari away right in front of the paparazzi because he hadn't made a payment in months. 68. Anna Anderson spent her life claiming to be the Grand Duchess Anastasia, the sole survivor of the Romanov execution. She gained supporters and fame, but decades later, DNA testing proved she was absolutely not royalty. She was Franziska Szankowska, a Polish factory worker with a history of mental illness and a good imagination. 69. Greg Mortensen wrote 3 Cups of Tea, an inspiring memoir about building schools for girls in the Taliban-controlled mountains of Pakistan. It was a bestseller until 60 Minutes visited the villages. Many of the schools were empty shells used to store grain, and the dramatic kidnapping story he wrote was completely fabricated. 70. Barry Bremen was known as the Great Imposter for sneaking into major sporting events. He once put on a uniform and actually warmed up with the NBA All-Stars on the court. He got exposed when genuine players noticed the guy shooting layups was a 30-year-old insurance salesman with terrible form and asked security to escort him out. 71. The Wonka experience in Glasgow promised families a magical chocolate factory with optical marvels. They paid good money only to walk into a sparsely decorated warehouse with a terrifying, unauthorized villain living behind a mirror. The police were called by crying children, and the pictures of the depressed Oompa Loompa became instant internet heritage. 72. Bill Clinton looked directly into the camera, wagged his finger, and famously declared he did not have relations with that woman. It was the ultimate gamble. It fell apart when a stained blue dress appeared as evidence, forcing a sitting president to painfully define what the word "is" actually means on national television. 73. A Twitter-famous biker girl gained a massive following by posting glamorous selfies, long rides, and aesthetic motorcycle shots. Fans were crushing hard until a reflection in a bike's side mirror exposed the truth. The account wasn't run by a young woman at all, but by a 50-year-old man using filters and FaceApp to live out a digital alter ego. 74. Volkswagen marketed their diesel cars as environmentally friendly, claiming clean diesel tech. It was a lie programmed into the engine's computer. The software detected when the car was being tested and lowered emissions, then spewed poison on the highway. They cheated the entire planet until a university lab noticed the math didn't add up. 75. Alex Jones spent years pushing false claims about a national tragedy and later told a court he had no messages related to it. During testimony, prosecutors revealed his own lawyers had mistakenly sent them a full digital copy of his phone. He was caught contradicting himself in real time, proving that denial collapses instantly when digital records enter the room. 76. Jean-Claude Romand pretended to be a doctor for the World Health Organization for 18 years. He sat in his car in parking lots reading papers while his family thought he was working. When the bank finally called about his overdraft, the lie ended in a horrific tragedy that shocked the entire nation of France. 77. The White Stripes built their mysterious image on the claim that Jack and Meg were siblings, adding a weird dynamic to their act. Then a journalist in Detroit dug up their marriage certificate. They were actually a divorced couple pretending to be brother and sister, which made their on-stage chemistry significantly less illegal. 78. Fiona Harvey appeared on television claiming she was the inspiration for the show Baby Reindeer while denying the behavior portrayed in it. Online sleuths quickly compared old posts and public records, pointing out similarities that fueled massive debate. The internet did what it does best, turning the situation into a viral courtroom without a judge. 79. Paul Manafort tried to redact sensitive information from a court filing to hide his connections. He drew black boxes over the text in a PDF file, but he didn't flatten the document. Journalists simply copy-pasted the text from under the black boxes, revealing his crimes instantly because he didn't understand how computers work. 80. Minecraft YouTuber Dream posted a speedrun so lucky it was statistically impossible. He hired experts to defend him, but the math nerds of the internet tore his data apart. He eventually admitted he had accidentally left a modification on that boosted drop rates, proving you cannot outsmart a million bored teenagers with calculators. 81. Dee Blanchard presented her daughter Gypsy Rose as a terminally ill child who needed a wheelchair and feeding tube. It was a masterclass in manipulation until police discovered a crime that exposed the entire deception. Gypsy walked into the station on her own two legs, revealing the illness was a fiction created by a mother desperate for control and attention. 82. Martin Shkreli smirked his way through Congress, acting untouchable after hiking drug prices. His arrogance hit a wall when he claimed on a live stream that he bought a unique Wu-Tang Clan album for $2 million. The feds watched the stream, tracked his assets, and seized the album to pay his fraud debts. 83. Belle Delphine sold jars labeled Gamer Girl bathwater to fans for $30 each as a stunt. The product was real, but But the joke spiraled out of control when some buyers claimed they drank it. She later clarified she never intended it for consumption, proving once again that the internet needs warning labels for basic survival. 84. Robin Thicke sued the family of Marvin Gaye to prove Blurred Lines was original. In a deposition that destroyed his cool image, he admitted he didn't write the song at all because he was too high on Vicodin to function. He threw himself under the bus to save his copyright, and lost anyway. 85. Richard Nixon went on television and famously told the American people, "I am not a crook." It was a strong soundbite until the smoking gun tape surfaced where he was recorded discussing the cover-up. He resigned in disgrace, proving that even the president cannot fight an audio recorder. And the lists only get wilder from here. 86. The Liver King built a massive fitness empire, screaming that his ripped physique came from eating raw liver and living like a caveman. He shamed people for being weak until a leaked email chain revealed his ancestral lifestyle included $11,000 a month worth of modern steroids. 87. Charles Ingram won the jackpot on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but the production crew noticed something odd in the audio. Every time he read the correct answer aloud, a loud cough came from the audience. His wife and a friend were literally coughing him to victory in a scam so clumsy it became a TV drama. 88. Sam Bankman-Fried graced the covers of magazines as the humble billionaire who drove a Corolla and just wanted to save the world. While he was preaching effective altruism on stage, he was secretly funneling billions of dollars of customer money into luxury penthouses and bad crypto bets until the entire house of cards collapsed. 89. Akon built his street cred on the story that he was a hardened criminal who ran a notorious car theft ring. The convict persona made him millions. It turned out he was actually the son of a famous jazz musician and grew up in a comfortable suburb, and his prison time was mostly exaggerated for album sales. 90. Sepp Blatter stood at the podium claiming FIFA was free of corruption despite decades of bribery accusations. His speech was interrupted by comedian Lee Nelson, who walked on stage and showered him with fake money. The image of the flustered president trying to dodge the raining cash became the defining picture of his disgraceful exit. 91. Amy Cooper called the police in Central Park claiming an African-American man was threatening her life with a frantic performance. The man calmly recorded the encounter from a distance. The video showed how quickly a false narrative can spiral once a camera is involved, instantly collapsing the story she tried to sell. 92. The Cottingley Fairies photos convinced the world that magic was real, fooling even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Two young girls claimed they photographed actual fairies in their garden. Decades later, they admitted they had just cut pictures out of a children's book and held them up with hat pins, proving even geniuses can be tricked by cardboard. 93. Tom Brady and the Patriots denied deflating footballs to gain an advantage in the AFC Championship. Brady claimed total innocence and cooperation. The narrative got messy when investigators discovered he had destroyed his cell phone right before his interview, which is exactly what innocent people with nothing to hide usually do. 94. Khloe Kardashian's team worked frantically to scrub a leaked photo from the internet because it showed her in a bikini without Photoshop. By issuing legal threats to remove the unedited image, they accidentally triggered the Streisand effect, ensuring that millions of people saw the one photo that proved her online perfection is a digital fabrication. 95. Legendary surgeon R.K. Wilson took the most famous photo of the Loch Ness Monster, a grainy black and white shot of a neck rising from the water. It fueled the legend for 60 years. On his deathbed, a co-conspirator revealed it was actually a toy submarine fitted with a head made of wood putty. 96. Tiger Woods was the squeaky clean face of golf, a disciplined family man with zero scandals. That image crashed into a fire hydrant at 2 in the morning. The minor accident unraveled a secret life of mistresses and cover-ups, turning the most marketable athlete on the planet into a punchline about bad driving and worse decisions. 97. Actor. Jussie Smollett is worth mentioning again because of the sheer audacity of his hate crime. In court, he claimed the check he wrote to his attackers was for nutrition and training. The judge literally stopped him to ask why a personal trainer would be wearing a ski mask during the workout. 98. Bernie Madoff was a Wall Street wizard who delivered consistent returns no matter what the market did. He was the chairman of the NASDAQ and a trusted figure. The lie was so big, $65 billion big, that it only ended when his own sons turned him in, revealing he hadn't made a real trade in decades. 99. A viral video showed a hero pig saving a baby goat from drowning in a pond. It touched millions of hearts and was featured on news stations. It was later revealed that the filmmakers threw the goat into the water on purpose just to film the pig swimming, abusing one animal to make the other a star. 100. Rob Pilatus of Milli Vanilli deserves a second mention for the press conference where they tried to prove they could sing after the lip-sync scandal. They performed "Girl, You Know It's True," a cappella for reporters. It was so off-key and painful that it confirmed the Grammy revocation was the only correct decision. 101. Orson Welles broadcast a radio adaptation of The War of the Worlds in a news bulletin style that sounded terrifyingly real. He claimed Martians were invading New Jersey. Panic swept the nation as people packed their cars and fled their homes, proving that with the right voice and a serious tone, you can make the public believe absolutely anything. Most of these people were sloppy, but a few were absolute geniuses who just got unlucky. Be honest. Who on this list do you actually respect for the hustle? Who deserved to get away with the scam? Defend your favorite villain in the comments. Hit the like button if you are just glad you aren't on this list and subscribe.